Hey there, what is up you guys? I am Jerry Lai and welcome back to my sports photography channel. For those of you visiting for the very first time, I currently serve as the Director of Content and Photography at USA Today Sports. I've been lucky enough to have been in the photojournalism industry for over 16 years. My goal for the channel is to help you become a better sports photographer. If you think that I could help you out, hit that like button and subscribe. Today, I want to answer what is by far the most common question that I receive, and that is how to become a sports photographer. So let's gear up and let's get started. I think the best way to tell you how to become a sports photographer is to share the story of how I became a sports photographer. Now, admittedly, the path to how I got to where I am is a little bit unorthodox, but by the end of this video, you'll see how it all ties together and how some of these principles may apply to you. My story begins at Northwestern University, where I went to college. I have actually always been interested in photography, but I don't think I ever took it seriously as a potential career. In fact, I actually have a bachelor's degree in biology. So how the heck did I end up in photography? Well, as it turns out, one of my close friends from my junior and senior years knew that I had an interest in cameras and taking pictures, even from spectator seats at sporting events. He was also the lead photo editor at my school's newspaper, the Daily Northwestern, and so he was able to offer me a photo pass for one of the early season football games. So of course, I agreed to take that pass, and after shooting that first game, I was hooked. So after that one game, I joined the Daily Northwestern's photo staff and ended up shooting as many assignments as I could. You name the sport, I took the assignment. From field hockey to soccer to volleyball to anything else in between. Not only was it exciting to be on the sidelines so close to the action, but I knew that early on it was going to be very important to get as much experience and as much time on the sidelines as possible to help improve my skills. And that's going to be true for anybody. The more you shoot, the more comfortable you will become with your gear, and the more knowledgeable you will become when it comes to settings, positioning, and specific sports situations. Now, here was the really big bonus about me being able to shoot at Northwestern. Northwestern plays in a major collegiate athletics conference, the Big Ten. That meant that newspaper photographers with the Chicago Tribune, as well as wire services like Getty Images and the Associated Press, would come and cover these same contests. This benefited me in two ways. First, it allowed me to see them, but just as importantly, it allowed them to see me. Now, what I mean by that is whenever I had an opportunity to photograph a game, I would be able to log online afterwards and go to Yahoo Photos. I know that sounds a little bit weird because why Yahoo? Well, remember, this was the early 2000s and back then Yahoo was king. Using Yahoo, I was able to see photos processed to the wires in chronological order from the games that I was photographing. Of course, these days you can still do the same thing, you just have to visit the respective agency websites. But what I would do is I would compare the photos that I shot at a game and compare them to the equivalent take shot by the professionals. I would see the types of images that they would shoot at a contest and submit on deadline. Doing so taught me several things. First and foremost, it taught me what makes a good sports photo. And second, it showed me what makes a good sports photo for editorial publications like newspapers and magazines. Once I got an idea of what they're looking for, I'd then go out to the next game and see how they shot and positioned themselves at future contests and try to emulate their thought process, tactics, and of course, the final results. They, of course, always outshot me, and it was a very humbling experience, but it taught me what it needed to become a pro on the sidelines. Now, the flip side to this was that all these same pros would see me at the same games and same venues. They would see how hard and how respectfully that I would work. I would be on time, I would follow all the rules, but most importantly, I'd show them how eager that I was to learn. We'd all be crammed together at halftime or after a game in a photo workroom, working on our images shoulder to shoulder. And over time, as I shot more games, they could slowly see my work improving and looking a lot more polished. And when the time came where they needed a substitute freelancer or a job that they needed to farm out, they were willing to give me a chance. Now, I was also very lucky that in the mid-2000s, there was not one, but two photo agencies here in Chicago that had openings for freelance photographers. So I managed to sign freelance contracts with both. Eventually, after shooting hundreds, possibly thousands of sporting events, I was offered a job by a small startup agency in the late 2000s. This small agency was then eventually purchased by USA Today in 2012, and this is where I continue to work today. So in a nutshell, that was my story of how I became a sports photographer. But how exactly does that help you? Well, I'm going to tell you how. It's because my story essentially boils down to three key ingredients for success. 1, you need to network. 2, you need to be willing to continue to educate yourself. And 3, you do need a pinch of luck. So let's expand on these three ingredients. The first ingredient for success in sports photography is that you need to be willing to network. Sports photography is a very small industry, and I'll be honest, without networking, there's virtually no way in. Without meeting and talking to people in the business, you won't move beyond just taking pictures at a game for fun or for yourself. There's of course nothing wrong with this, but if your ultimate goal is to make an income through sports photography, you are going to have to put yourself out there. Now, of course, the opportunity to network is going to be easier for some of you than for others. For example, if you are a student at a university, access to sporting events is going to be a lot simpler, and your likelihood of running into pro photographers at these events will be much higher. But of course, going to university is not your only path to becoming a sports photographer. For example, you could photograph Little League games and cross paths with those league photographers. Alternatively, you could look into photographing some niche sports like lacrosse or auto racing or ski racing. As you dive deeper into the industry, you'll find there are many communities of these sports-specific photographers that are arguably easier to break into than those that shoot mainstream sports. Then, with your foot in the door and a portfolio to show, you could branch out from there. Now, all that said, simply saying hello isn't going to be enough. Just like any other industry, you have to prove that you are a trustworthy, reliable worker. This means you present yourself as friendly and approachable and someone who is prepared and punctual. If I, as a professional, am going to stick my neck out for you, I got to be sure that I don't get burned. The second ingredient to success that I want to expand on is you need to be willing to continue to educate yourself and improve your skills. How does one get better at anything? Practicing, of course. This is no different with photography. If you recall from my story, I did two very important things when starting out. One, it was shoot as much as possible, but two, to seek examples of work produced from similar or the same events that I shot and attempt to replicate those results. There's actually a third thing that you should try to do, and that's to continue to read up on technique as well as the latest trends in photography. Especially when it comes to digital photography, you can rapidly fall behind the times. So definitely read up on some online forums, blogs, or follow some of your favorite YouTube channels and get the latest in camera technology and technique. Now finally, the third ingredient you need for success in sports photography is you do need a pinch of luck. Now obviously you want to put yourself in the best position possible, but not everything is going to be in your control. You could be friendly, approachable, and respectful, and someone who shows that they're willing to constantly improve their craft, but you do need the opportunity. Again, in my situation, I was extremely lucky that by the time I had improved and had enough games under my belt to put together a reasonably strong sports portfolio, there happened to be two openings in Chicago where I could get my feet through the door. I know such a large opportunity may not make itself available to you right away, but just be patient. Continue to follow my advice above, and when the opportunity finally does knock upon your door, no matter how large or how small, you should jump on it. Because once you get your foot through the crack in the door, you never know where it may lead. Anyways, that will be a wrap on today's video, sharing how I became a sports photographer and how you could take the principles from my story and apply it to yourself. Let me know in the comment section down below if you currently work as a sports photographer and found that your path to the business was similar to mine. Also, don't hesitate to ask me any questions about breaking into the business. I'm very happy and here to help. Thank you all very much as always for watching today. If you enjoyed the content of this video and on this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted as to when new content drops. Thanks again for watching. Stay safe everyone, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye.